Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you so much for coming out on such a cold morning. But we are so glad to be here because this is truly an exciting day for the workers of New York City and for the workers across the state of New York and their families. I just want to acknowledge some of our elected officials and union leaders and other special guests that are here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Brian Benjamin. Assembly Member Richard Gottfried. Assembly Member Jose Rivera. Assembly Member Dan Rosenthal. Assembly Member Joanne Simon. My borough president and Manhattan Borough President, the wonderful Gail Brewer. Council Member Peter Koo. Mario Salento, President of the New York State AFL-CIO. Mike McGuire, Director of the Mason Tenders District Council PAC. Jill Farillo, Executive Director, New York State Nurses Association. Commissioner Roberta Reardon, New York State Department of Labor. And my fellow advocates of the New York Paid Leave Coalition, Donna Dolan, Eric Williams, Jocelyn Mazurkowitz. I would also like to thank Governor Cuomo for being here with us today and for once again doing great things for our community. Governor Cuomo is stepping up and delivering relief for hard-working New Yorkers who still struggle to get ahead in today's economy. With transformative investments in education and job training, strong protections for workers' rights, and exciting new policies to keep more money in the pockets of working families, New York is becoming a model for economic justice and for fairness for the rest of the country to follow. So please join me in welcoming a tireless advocate for working people, our champion, the 56th Governor of New York State, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy holidays, getting ready for the new year. Thank you all very much for taking the time to come out today to be with my colleagues who we're getting excited. We're going to start a new year in Albany in just a few days, and Lord knows we have a lot of work cut out for us. Let's give Nancy Rankin a big round of applause for all the great work that she's done. We're going to hear from Mario Salento, who's the great president of the AFL-CIO. Let's give him a round of applause. And to all the advocates who work so hard to make this possible. At one time, what is going to be enacted into law on January 1 minimum wage, paid family leave, tax cuts for the middle class. They would have told you that was impossible. But we didn't accept that. And the advocates worked, and we worked together, and we made it happen. So give yourselves a round of applause. The year is almost over, and I, for one, am glad to see it go. Let 2017 go. It was just a bad year. There was a bad energy, a bad mojo. I don't know what happened, but planets were out of alignment, and a lot of bad things happened. Climate change all over the place like we've never seen before. Florida, Texas. What happened to Puerto Rico is a national tragedy. People in Puerto Rico are Americans. This country did not step up and do what it was supposed to do. We've had terrorism attacks, 2 in 2 months in New York City. And what was frightening also was how quickly we recoiled from it, how quickly we rebounded, almost as if we're starting to adjust to the violence. And the economy, which has been very, very difficult for the middle class and working families for a long time. It's only getting worse. The economy is great. If you're up at the top end and you're riding on the top of the wave, you're doing great. But the middle class working families, they've been going backwards for 20 years. Think about that. In real wages, you go backwards for 20 years, which means your earning potential from where you were 20 years ago is down. You know, I'm old. I remember $60,000. That was a good salary. You made $60,000. $60,000, that's the tuition of one of these private colleges out here. I mean, that's what's happened to the middle class. And they're angry and they're frustrated and nobody's listening and it's only getting worse and it's going on for a long time. And that's what this political environment picked up this past year. The reason the federal government is the federal government is because they sensed that middle class anxiety. And they used it. They used it. They sensed the fear, they sensed the anger, and they said, I'm the solution. You're middle class, you're working men and women, you're scared, you think you're going backwards. Don't worry, I'm your solution. I'm your guy. I'm going to fix your problem. And they captured that emotion. They read the audience, and they played the audience. Why? Because they're very good at marketing. That's why. It's what they do. Now, it turned out to be a total scam. They passed a tax cut plan that 60% of the benefits go to the top 1%. They say 15 times a day, whenever you turn on the TV, this helps the middle class and the working class. Yeah, it doesn't. It's math at the end of the day, right? It's not words. A tax cut plan is math. And the math says 60% go to the top 1%. Well, we're giving the rich corporations a big tax cut, 40% tax cut, so then they can give the wages, higher wages to the worker. Oh, that sounds so nice. It's nice. Wouldn't it be nice if that's the way the world worked? I give the corporations a tax cut, and they have a big windfall, but they're nice people, and they're generous people, and they're kind people. So they don't want to keep the money. They give the money to the workers as a wage increase. And they say, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I didn't need the money anyway, I'm rich. Oh, that would be so nice. But then you'd have to wake up, right? And when you wake up, you give a tax cut to the corporation. You know what the corporation's going to do? Put it in its pocket. Pay the CEO more. Pay higher dividends. Buy a house in the south of France. Why should they pay the workers higher wages when the workers are already working for those wages? And federal government, fool me once, if you really wanted the corporation to pay higher wages, you know what you would have done? You would have written it into the law. That's what you would have done. You would have written a law that said, corporation, you're going to get a 40% tax cut. But, capital B, you must give half of that tax cut to the workers in terms of higher wages. That's what you would have done. And they know it. They didn't want to do that. Give the rich the tax cut, give the corporation the tax cut. And they'll spend it and they'll buy things and they'll go buy something that somebody had to make, and that will stimulate the economy. It's called trickle down. It's what Ronald Reagan talked about. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. It's a total scam on all the rhetoric, which was help the poor middle class, help the poor working guy, bring those manufacturing jobs back. The lesson coming out of 2017 is government matters. Government matters. I was with a group of one of my daughter's friends. They were bemoaning the world. I said, by the way, did you vote? Oh, well, I'm over here. I'm a boarding student, and my voter registration, my hair was done that day. Taught people a lesson. Government matters. It can be very good. It can be very bad. But it matters. And you better vote. And New York is showing you the flip side of the coin. How do you really address the middle class? That's what these ladies and gentlemen in the legislature actually did this year. Number one, you create jobs. Create jobs. Because this is not about endless government subsidies, it's about getting people good paying jobs. This state created over 1 million jobs. We now have 8.1 million private sector jobs, the highest number of jobs this state has ever had, believe it or not. 8.1 million jobs. So create the jobs. Provide education for people to get those jobs. 50% of the jobs in 5 years are going to require a college education. 50% of the jobs. Well, how do I pay for college? Well, go to a state school. A state school can cost $30,000 a year. Not tax deductible. That's $60,000, $50,000 in income. That's stressing the middle class. You want to know what makes the middle class nervous when they go to sleep at night? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay for my kid's education? God forbid my kid gets into college and I can't pay. What guilt. What a failure of parental responsibility. We passed Excelsior Scholarship up to $150,000 income. Free tuition at any state school if you get it. And then we passed what we're talking about today, raising the minimum wage. Well, just kids get paid the minimum wage. Nobody really makes the minimum wage, just a high school kid. Oh, really? Minimum wage, 40% of the people who earn minimum wage or are married or have a child, 40%. 50% are over 35 years old. Minimum wage was $9 an hour. $9 an hour is $18,000 a year. You tell me how you live on $18,000 in this city. How do you do it? It's impossible. You just cannot do it. $9 was the state minimum wage. The federal minimum wage today is $7 and change. We passed a law. The $9 went to $11 an hour, and tomorrow, it goes to $13 an hour, raising the minimum wage. The year after, it goes to $15 an hour. Now, you want to talk about making a difference in somebody's life? You go from making $18,000 a year to making $30,000 a year. That is a big, big difference. And that changes how much food your children have to eat, the clothing on their back, the books in their rooms. That will change people's lives. And that is exactly what the minimum wage was all about. We also took another step where we said, cut middle-class tax rates, and that goes into effect tomorrow also. The rate goes from 6.4 down to 5.5, about a 1% cut for the salaries up to $150,000. So not only will you make more, but you'll save more in state taxes. And we also passed something called paid family leave. Paid family leave means we can be creating jobs and providing college education and wages that pay. But more than anything, we want to provide a quality of life that treats people with respect and dignity. When I was with Bill Clinton, we passed family leave, which allowed people weeks to take off time for family emergencies. But you took off time, and the company had to give you time, and they couldn't fire you, but you didn't get paid. So you had to be in a financial position to actually take off 2, 3, 4 weeks with no pay and still pay the bills. We passed paid family leave. And, life comes full circle. Paid family leave, they told us, was a non-starter in Albany. The Senate just wouldn't do it, because paid family leave is you don't have to go to work and they have to pay you. This year it's up to 8 weeks. So the businesses said, forget it. And it was an uphill fight. But it's about quality of life, and it's about reality. Just about this time of year, I was spending a lot of time in a hospital because my father was passing away. My father passed away tomorrow, which was the day of my inauguration as governor. He had promised me that he would be here through my inauguration. And I gave the inaugural speech on January 1. He listened to it over the telephone, and he passed away. He lived to his word. He would be here when I was inaugurated, and he was. But I was spending a lot of time in the hospital around this time of year. And a lot of people were very sick, and people knew that they were dying and they were going to pass. And a few families who I would be talking to, there was always a lot of frenzy. A daughter would be rushing in about 5:30, rushing out in the morning, rushing back at lunch. And she said, my father's dying, I can't get off work. I said, because I had to be smarter than the average bear, well, actually, there's a law that the Clinton administration passed that says you can get off work. She said, I know that law, but I have to get paid because I have to pay the bills. So I can't take off time. And I'm losing my father, and I want to be with him every minute. And I come in back and forth during lunch. I come in before I go to work in the morning. I get here right after work to spend time with him. I go home, put the kids to bed, and then come back to the hospital. Those are the moments that matter in life. You know, when you look back, what are the moments that matter? When the child is born, people get married, who's there for you when you're sick? Do you get quality time to spend when someone's passing and they need peace and they need relaxation? That's what life is really all about. And middle-class working families have been denied that. Paid family leave says 8 weeks, it goes up to 12 weeks, and you get paid for it. And that's what goes into effect tomorrow, and that's what you should feel very good about. Two last quick points. One, a message to the general public. The tax cut goes into effect tomorrow. Minimum wage goes into effect tomorrow. Paid family leave goes into effect tomorrow. This is not voluntary. We're not asking employers to do this. We're not saying it would be nice if you cooperated. We're saying it is the law, and it will be enforced. I want every employee to know, and I want to make sure it's in their next paycheck. And if it is not, contact the state. Make sure you know what the minimum wage goes up to, what your check should be. Make sure you know what you're entitled to under paid family leave. Make sure you know how the tax cut affects you. And if you have a problem, call the Department of Labor. Commissioner Reardon is here, because it is the law. And I don't want any employees defrauded because the employers were slow on instituting the law. Second message is to my colleagues here in the legislature, who I'm going to be with in just a few days to kick off the new agenda. There's a lesson here for us, my friends. They told us raising the minimum wage was impossible. We started something called the Mario Cuomo Economic Justice Campaign. I got in an RV, mobile home, toaster oven on wheels thing, painted purple, ate a lot of donuts, drove all over the state, changed public opinion on minimum wage, and we got it passed. They said paid family leave was impossible. We got it passed. They said cutting taxes for the middle class was impossible. We got it passed. By the way, they said marriage equality was impossible. We got it passed. They said gun control was impossible. We got it passed. We have severe challenges this year. There is nothing that we cannot do if we focus on it. It is our apathy that stops us from solving these problems. There is no reason you have homeless people on the street in 2018. There's no reason, but you choose not to do anything about it. There's no reason why you leave young black men locked up in Rikers Island. 75% haven't even been convicted of a darn thing, and you're leaving them locked up. It's because they're poor, and they are minority, and they are voiceless, and they are powerless, let's be honest. None of these things have to be. We can change anything we want to change. And we've proven it over and over and over again. And that's what 2018 is going to be about for all of us. We learned a lesson on 2017. Sometimes you have to get knocked on your tuchus to see the world differently. Do you know tuchus? It's an Italian word, tuchus. You get knocked on your tuchus. You see, now I'm in trouble with everybody. Now the Italians are unhappy and the Jewish people are unhappy. Welcome to New York. You get knocked on your tuchus, you see the world differently. We got knocked on our tuchus in 2017. We see the world differently. You get up from the canvas. That's what separates winners from losers. You get up from the canvas, you get up stronger, you get up united, knowing there's nothing you can't do, and we change the course of this state and this country, and we do it this year. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Mario Salento and Nancy Rankin.
Please welcome Mario Salento.
Let's hear it again for Governor Cuomo. And let's thank the YMCA for hosting us here today. Let's give them a round of applause. Let me just say this. You don't really want to have to follow the governor after he speaks, but I'm going to give it a shot and really, really brief. You know, everything that the governor just talked about, this is about a celebration today, really. It's a celebration of who we are as a state, who we are as New Yorkers, always striving to achieve that goal. What is that goal? To raise the standard of living and the quality of life of all New Yorkers, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter your race, your religion, your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, from Buffalo to Brooklyn to Long Island, and everywhere in between. Public sector, private sector, and building trades, union and non-union. That's our goal, to raise the standard of living and the quality of life of all New Yorkers. And these issues that the governor laid out today do exactly that. For all of us, remember, all of us. And they are real, they are immediate, and they are tangible. Think about this for a second. The governor talked about they're hoping. They do a lot of talking in Washington. They talk a lot. But we're going to do this, we're going to do that. In New York, we don't talk, we do, right? The governor makes that happen. We don't hope something's going to happen. We lead. And we don't just say, you know, wish upon a star that maybe this or that will happen. We succeed by setting a standard for the rest of the country to follow, and that's because of our governor, Governor Cuomo. Let's hear it from one more time. You know, you raise the minimum wage, you have paid family leave. That's real and immediate and tangible. Governor talked about the numbers. It means that, not only that, there's a feeling of dignity and self-worth that a person gets by being able to support themselves and their families solely through their wages, solely through their labor. You can pay your rent and utilities, you feed and clothe your children, as the governor talked about. You know that it was you who went to work every day, and you were able to do that for them. You fulfilled your responsibilities as a husband, as a wife, as a father, as a mother. You did that. And remember, because they don't like to talk about it, but we all win. It's not just that worker, it's not just that family. We know that minimum wage workers put that money right back into the economy. They go to the hardware store, they go to the dry cleaner, they go maybe get a cup of coffee on the way to work. Small businesses in this state prosper when you raise the minimum wage, because those businesses now have income coming in that they never would have had beforehand. And you know what? Those small businesses pay taxes on that revenue. That revenue and that tax money goes right back into tax bases across the state, which allows all of us to have the services that the public service that we rely on. That tax base grows, you're able to pay for education in our schools, our hospitals, and our healthcare, our transportation, our law enforcement, our firefighters. So all New Yorkers win. This isn't just about or only about those workers who are going to get a minimum wage increase tomorrow. All of New York prospers. And we're thankful for that, Governor. Thank you for that. And as for paid family leave, the governor really outlined it, but let me just tell you this. I've been very fortunate. You know, I've seen both ends of the spectrum. My wife and I are blessed to have 3 daughters. I know the governor has 3 as well. I'm blessed. Working at the state AFL-CIO, even before I had this job while I was on staff, when they were born, I was able to be in the hospital with them, and I had the moment that every parent wants. I was able to hold them in my arms and bring each of my daughters into their home for the first time and show them where they were going to grow up and where they were going to live. I was able to do that, and I never had to worry about a paycheck. I never had to worry that my job was going to be there. I worked for the AFL-CIO, right? I'm going to get paid, and I'm going to keep my job, and there's no one who's going to take that away from me. And I was very fortunate. I was able to spend time with them and bond with them. I was able to help my wife with whatever I was going to help her with. I was there until I decided to go back, or until my wife politely suggested maybe I go back, because my wife's very polite. But I went back. On the other end of the spectrum, as the governor mentioned, a few years ago, I was president, my mother got sick, and we knew she only had a certain amount of time. She had a certain amount of time, and as the governor said, you want to make the most of every moment. And I was able to do that for her, for myself, peace of mind. I was able to fulfill my responsibilities as a son. But this is why I bring it up. Because in both of those instances, at both ends of the spectrum, I was one of the lucky few. I had special cases. I didn't have to worry about pay or a job. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, it was a special case. There's nothing special about me. You can ask my wife again. She'll be polite. But the fact is, that was a special case. What the governor is saying today, we are all special. Each and every one of us. We are special as New Yorkers, as citizens. We are special as human beings. And everybody should have that opportunity that I had, that the governor had, to be there with our families, to be there in their time of need. So, Governor, we thank you for that as well. And I say to you this, that this doesn't happen unless the governor leads the way. And as I said, there's a lot of talking. We hear a lot of talking in Washington, and we talk about the trickle down, and maybe this will happen, and maybe that'll happen. And leadership is not about hoping. It's not about wishing on a star. It's not about sending out a press release. Leadership, you lead by example. You lead through dedication and commitment to a cause. You lead by inspiring others. Governor, I say to you that I thank you on behalf of the citizens and the taxpayers, the 2.5 million members of the AFL-CIO, and more importantly, their families. We say thank you for setting a standard for Washington, D.C. to follow. Thank you for setting a standard for the other 49 states in this country to follow, as we always strive to achieve our goal, to raise that standard of living and that quality of life for all human beings, all of us in this state, and hopefully, through our leadership, all of us in this country. Thank you, Governor. Thank you on behalf of all of us. Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you for your great remarks, Mario, and for your wonderful remarks, Governor. Thanks to Governor Cuomo's leadership, 2018 is going to be a great year. A minimum wage on its way to $15. The most comprehensive paid family leave law in the country. These announcements today are life-changing. Together, we're building a stronger and a fairer future for New York, where all our families can thrive. Thank you all. This concludes our program. Stay warm, stay cozy. Happy New Year, everyone.